The Lord is good. How many of you like school? I'm brave to ask, huh? Well, you can tell me if you don't like it, but I think you're here because you like it. Let's get back where we were last time. We're looking at the four beasts, right? Four beasts came up out of the Mediterranean. And that is like, that nails it down, okay? We see who they are. The number one is Babylon, right? The wings like the eagle, the lion. The lion is Babylon. Sorry, that's right there. Okay? The second one, the bear with the ribs, is Media-Persia. The Greece is the leopard with the four heads and the four wings. That speaks of the breakup of the Greek Empire. And Rome, which is something that he could not describe. It's so terrifying. Okay? And had sharp iron teeth, and I would say that's because it's something that's never been seen before. It's a coming together of the old Roman Empire, but it in such a way that the weapons that we have today, just put them together with what they had back then, and you see why it's so radically different. That you had no way to describe it, right? And that's what it's telling us, is that it's something that has not existed before, has in terms of Rome as the kingdom, but it's come together in this alliance at the end of the age that is very powerful, and yet very different than anything that's gone before because of its structure and so on, right? And weaponry and all the rest of it. So the lion is Babylon. That's the ancient symbol. That's the Ishtar gate, Babylon. The lion was on the gate going into Babylon. And Nebuchadnezzar became, remember, an eagle for a time. So the lion and the eagle are associated with Babylon. And the bear, of course, is a ferocious beast. And lions are called king of beasts, right? So the lion is the top. He's the head, and that's Babylon. And the statue, as we saw, had a head of gold, which was Babylon, right? So the four beasts, when they come together at the end, they're all kind of represented in the last one. And that's why it's referred to as mystically as Babylon, because it is Babylon. Okay? It's that whole Babylon system. And this particular these four kingdoms start with Babylon. All right. Then number 2, Media-Persia, right? Number 3, the leopard is Greece, and so on. And the fourth one is the revived Roman Empire. All right. You remember all this from last time? Yes. Okay. Now, the 10 horns are out of this kingdom. 10 kings will arise. This is Daniel 7 we're reading from. And another will arise after them, and he will be different from the previous ones and will subdue 3 kings. I'll tell you what that is later on, but we'll just leave that for now. This king is Antichrist, the one who subdues 3 kings. Okay? Now we're going to compare this now with Revelation 13 and 17. And the reason we're going to do that is because they're almost identical. Daniel is really the revelation of the Old Testament. And Revelation is built upon the prophets. The book of Revelation is. If you don't know the prophets, you won't get it. And it takes years to study it, right? But unfortunately, the New Testament people had, or should I say the church of the first century, they had the benefit of understanding the prophets and had Jesus explain them to them, right? And they studied the prophets a lot. You look at the writings of Peter and Paul, they're very often, all of the New Testament apostles and writers were always quoting the prophets. So they studied the prophets and they understood the message of it. And John, of course. A lot of people forget John was a Jew, but he was. And was schooled in the prophets. So he would have understood the imagery of Revelation because it was not foreign to him. All right, so we look at the last empire, the fourth one, which is in Daniel 7, is given to us as a beast that he can't even tell you what it is, some kind of monster, right? But it is the fourth kingdom and the final manifestation of the fourth kingdom. You get that? It goes all the way to the end. Okay? It doesn't stop with first century Rome. It goes all the way to the end, to the feet. And it seems to come back together and have this quality where it is partially strong and partially brittle, right? Now, there was nothing like that with ancient Rome. The Roman Empire was tough as iron. The legs were iron, solid iron, but the feet are iron and clay. And the 10 horns are 10 kings that will arise. Daniel 7:24 we read already. And also Revelation 17 says the 10 horns which you saw are 10 kings who have not yet received a kingdom. But they receive authority as kings with the beast for 1 hour. These have one purpose, and they give their power and authority to the beast. So we can clearly see that it's an alliance, right? Now, when it says kings, kingdoms and kings are interchangeable. Daniel even uses them interchangeably in chapter 8, we see it clearly. So he mentions kings, but he mentions kingdoms as well at the same time. So kings and kingdoms, there are 4 kingdoms. There were a whole lot of kings. Right? But yet, it's only 4 kingdoms. And then the next breath, they'll say 4 kings, but it's 4 kingdoms. You understand? You can't get hung up on the Bible. You have to see the pattern, the way the Bible uses kings and kingdoms. If there's a king, there's a kingdom. Right? And as far as the Bible is concerned. Now, we can call them leaders, you can call them prime ministers, it doesn't matter. That's just our jargon for the same thing. You say, well, kings were more powerful. True, but remember the final system, the feet of iron and clay are different, right? And so what we're seeing is that it has its very strong part and it has its very weak part. And we can certainly see both today, can't we? And right now we see it looks like unstable. But that's being told to us in the verse, so we can't dismiss that. And a lot of people are saying, oh, it's all falling apart. But it's not. It just looks that way. It's just this is the clay that you're looking at right now. Right? Now let's go on tonight. There will be a 4th kingdom. This is going back to chapter 2. I have to clear up some things, so I need to go back to chapter 2. There will be a 4th kingdom as strong as iron, inasmuch as iron crushes and shatters all things, so that iron that breaks in pieces, it will crush and break all these in pieces. In that you saw the feet and toes, partly of potter's clay and partly of iron, it will be a divided kingdom. That's the thing you need to remember, right? So you don't have to panic. We didn't miss it with the EU. I've stood strong on this for a number of years, and people are, oh, Brexit, they all said, oh, you can't be right about that because of Brexit. Well, here we go, Brexit. And what's happening now? It's falling apart, just like we said it would. And they're punishing Britain for leaving. And now they have a new prime minister because the old one was forced out by the powers that be, right? The Davos people. You know, King Charles is one of them. right? He's the one who was pretty much prophesying the Antichrist there last year. So he's one of the gang, and now he's the king, and he doesn't have to go through the queen anymore. And personally, I think, I could be wrong, but I think that's why she held on so long, because she didn't trust him. She knew what he's very different than her. His values are totally different. She was old school moral values. She was not into giving up British sovereignty, but Charles will give it up in a second. He's a one world man. Okay? So I would be inclined to think that mistrust there was given the boot, and that Charles was on the phone with some people. What would you think? Yeah, I would believe it too. But now they have handpicked this guy. Even Boris thought he was going to come back in, but they put the kibosh on that. So they've picked this guy who is absolutely Davos globalist to the max. So now they're on the fast lane back to Europe. But they don't have to do it the same way. They can come back into the system without having to do it the way they did it before. You understand? So it would lead you to think that Britain has been there from the beginning with the EU, and it would lead you to think that they're part of the alliance. But they don't have to be. I'm just saying this to show you how quickly things can change. But that the EU has been started, it was, with the Treaty of Rome in 1957 that was. But it started in 1948 with the Treaty of Brussels. That was the beginning. It's been growing ever since, and it has a few setbacks, and when you see the setbacks, that's the play. You understand? And we see it with, everybody's thinking, well, Italy is going conservative. But it doesn't say in the Bible that this kingdom is liberal or conservative. Does it? It just says it's an alliance. And by the way, she may be a conservative, and I think that's great, but she's not going to leave the EU. So she still keeps all the climate stuff and all that. All right, let's move on. So you get the point, right? That is partly, now this is the verse I'm after here, the one that's underlined. I need to explain this one to you because there's a lot of talk about it right now. And in that you saw the iron mixed with common clay, they will combine with one another in the seed of men, but they will not adhere to one another, even as iron does not combine with pottery. Now, Bible scholars, I should say, I don't know, I use the term loosely, but Bible prophecy people, how's that? Have always taken this to be what I've been teaching you, iron and clay, that it's partly strong and partly brittle, right? And because it's an alliance, it's built on treaties, it's built on those kind of things. The ancient system was built on a person, he's the boss and off with your head if you disagree. That's the Roman system. But this is different. It's all political stuff, right? Intrigue, politics, and behind backroom deals and all the rest of it. But it's an alliance, which makes it. And what do we see in alliance? And Daniel had no way of describing that. He was given the vision, and this is what is presented. And it's a very accurate picture of it, isn't it? Amazing. Now, there's a new theory out, and I wanted to make you aware of it. It's that there were these 10 kings are actually manifestations of Antichrist that have taken place throughout the Bible history. In other words, these are Nephilim people, and they examples are given as I don't believe it at all. I think it's nonsense, but I'll give it to you. I told you I would give you different views, but I need to give you this. This is fairly new. I've been around a long time, and I haven't heard it till this year. But anyway, it sees the 10 kings as 10 manifestations of Antichrist that have occurred throughout biblical history. And one would be like Nimrod, Nebuchadnezzar, Judas is one, Goliath, I forget the rest. I read it in the book, and I just found the book very frustrating and annoying because people are making a case, but there's no case. You're making a case, but there's no foundation. It's conjecture. Okay, because I see something that looks like that, then that's what it is. And they jump to the conclusion that there are 10 kings that are manifested. So we have 10, these 10 kings are like 10 Nephilim that appear at the end of the age. Okay? So that's straining to make something that isn't there and you don't need to strain because we have the information. There are 4 empires and they tell us who they are. And we know who they are from history. So, and of course, this verse here, so his conclusion then, that Daniel 2:43 refers to the return of the illicit relations that led to the birth of the Nephilim giants. And they get this out of the fact that he uses the word seed. And whereas thou sawest iron mixed with miry clay, they shall mingle themselves with the seed of men. So that, they think, is a hybrid Nephilim, angels having intercourse with women again. We're back to that. Okay? Now, there isn't a hint of that anywhere in Revelation. But there is something there which I will show you, but not that. The 10 kings are 10 kings, literal kings, 10 literal kingdoms. Okay? So it's a massive stretch. But they shall not cleave to one another, even as iron is mixed with clay. And I assure you, I studied this. I read the book. I labored through 2 of them. And when I say labored, I labored. I don't read every word. I don't read every word. I can't read every word. I scan the thought because a lot of these guys, they repeat over and over. So if you don't build a foundation for me, I'm done. You know what I'm saying? If you're going to present something like that and change everything we've seen and understood for many years, you better have some foundation for it. Now, I'm totally open to that, and I love this kind of stuff, and I like reading this kind of books. But this one was frustrating because it's not built on anything. Now, what is being said here, which is, I think, the easiest and simplest translation, is that the descendants, the seed, that's where the seed comes in. It's the descendants, okay, of the Roman Empire. Those men, the seed of men literally means their descendants. They will not adhere in the same way that they did. They will mingle together, but they won't adhere. And that's what iron and clay, they're next to each other, but they don't stick. Okay, so there's no reason to get into to see Nephilim here because they're not mentioned. Okay? I just wanted you to be aware of that because you're going to hear about it, I'm sure, because it's becoming popular. And everything that starts becoming popular, you're going to hear about. So that's the foundation. Now, it doesn't really matter to me that much, but it kind of undermines what we already know to be true. And it's kind of out there in the sense that it's somebody's conjecture. And you cannot build anything on conjecture. And unfortunately, when it comes to eschatology, that happens all the time. People make an assumption. And based on the assumption, just like Joel Richardson does with the Islamic Caliphate, there's an assumption. There's no factual evidence in either the Bible or history to back it up. Are you with me? Well, you understand what I'm saying? So here's what the NIV says, and it is the best translation, I think. And just as you saw the iron mixed with baked clay, so the people will be a mixture and will not remain united any more than iron mixes with clay. That's the point that's being said. It has nothing to do with Nephilim. All right, so we got that. cleared up. Let's go now to Revelation 13, because I want you to see that these chapters, Daniel 2, Daniel 7, and then a portion of 8, are really the same. They're the foundation for Revelation 13 and 17. Okay? Now, you see the beast up there? And I saw a beast coming up out of the sea, the Mediterranean, because it's a Jewish book, and the person writing it down had only ever been in the Mediterranean. That's the only sea John ever saw. And the Mediterranean is huge, because we're used to crossing the Atlantic, so it's like Mediterranean doesn't seem that big on the maps. But if you're in Israel and you look out on it, it's massive. It's the Great Sea. You couldn't come to any other conclusion, right? Having 10 horns and 7 heads. We're going to dive into what the 7 heads are in a few moments. And on his horns were 10 diadems, and on his heads were blasphemous names. And the beast which I saw, now this is really important. The beast which I saw was like a leopard, right? What's the leopard? Greece. So it was like Greece. Is the Western culture like Greece? Okay. And his feet, I don't have to really explain that, because Greco-Roman culture is all over the place. Just look at the architecture. And his feet were like those of a bear. Now that one puzzled me for some time. I couldn't understand how the feet are like Media Persia. Well, what is that? And then it just came. And sometimes, when you're looking for understanding, you just pray and ask the Lord, and you wait, and then it just comes. You read it again and it pops, right? And it just came to me because the Persians were different in the way they did the kingdom. They were the one empire that allowed everybody to have their own uniqueness. They didn't. That's why the Jews were allowed to go back, and even paid them to go back and rebuild the temple. The Romans would never have done that. The Greeks would never have done that. Babylon would never have done that. All of them destroyed the temple. But the Persians, were okay with cultural distinctions. And that's how they moved and took up more territory. And that's what the feet are. They're what you move around with. And when you think about the EU, that's been the strategy of growth for the EU. They bring in countries and absorb their differences. We're all different, but we're one. That's the slogan of the EU. And so they bring them in, but eventually, of course, they control them and cajole them into doing what they want them to do. But they're still allowed to have their distinct culture and all the rest of it, and all their idols, whatever they want. You understand? So this is how this revived Roman Empire walks about. It's got the Persian feet, absorbing everybody without forcing them to do things a certain way. Except when it comes to the humanist manifesto, right? So it looks like a leopard. Oh, it has a mouth like a lion, right? The lion, of course, is Babylon. So it looks like a leopard, looks like Greece. It has a mouth like Babylon. Now, what is Babylon known for? Idolatry, for blasphemy. Blasphemy of God, right? And feet like the bear, like Media Persia. Now, the bear here does all kinds of things, charts coming in. You'll see them on the internet. With Russia, has nothing to do with Russia. Russia's a bear, and they have all these things with the Islamic Caliphate and Russia and Britain and all these old pictures. You'll see old charts. No, it has nothing to do with any of that. These kingdoms are clearly given to us in Scripture. They're defined for us. We know what they are. And the problem is they don't see, the one problem was key number 2, right? Key number 2 is that they don't see that when Israel's not in the land, the prophecies don't apply. So the fourth beast goes all the way to the end. It's revived again with the 10 toes. 10 feet and toes. Okay, got that? All right. So, revived Roman Empire, it looks like Greece. The feet are like those of a bear, like Media Persia, and it has a mouth like a lion. Now, blasphemy, by the way, I think I've shared this with you before. There was given to him in Revelation 13, which is where we're going. There was given to him a mouth speaking arrogant words and blasphemies, and authority to act for 42 months. That's 3.5 years. The tribulation, right? Was given to him, and he opened his mouth in blasphemy against God, to blaspheme his name and his tabernacle, that is, those who dwell in heaven. Now, blasphemy is to slander what is good. That's what blasphemy is. And we tend to think of it as cursing. And that's, obviously, that's cursing, that's not good. But blasphemy is taking something that's holy and making it profane. It's calling the truth a lie and the lie a truth. That's what they're doing today. It's twisting the truth and making it a lie, or making a lie the truth, making wrong right and right wrong. And that's all we see, isn't it? And of course, it's against God. It's godlessness. It's against God. All right? Now, all right, so that is, I think that's a significant point, that's the meaning of blasphemy, and that's what's coming out of the EU all the time, blasphemy. Right? Listen to them go on. It's the words that they speak, it's English a lot of the time, or maybe, some European language, but it's absolute trash. Like, it doesn't make sense. They say things that make no sense because they're intending to communicate the message that they're so smart and intelligent that you can't understand what they're saying. You know what I'm talking about? They do that all the time, and they have these big speech with all this complicated language, which essentially says nothing but a bunch of lies, a bunch of pretense, right? And a bunch of nonsense. All right, verse 7, it was also given to him to make war with the saints and to overcome them, and authority was given to him over every tribe, people, language, and nation. All who live on the earth will worship him. Everyone whose name has not been written since the foundation of the world in the Lamb's book of life, the Lamb who has been slaughtered in his book of life. If anyone has an ear, let him hear. If anyone is destined for captivity, to captivity he goes. If anyone kills with the sword he must be killed. Here is the perseverance and the faith of the saints. All right? Now, verse 11 is where we are here. And that's what's up there. Okay? Everybody on board now? All right. Then I saw another beast, a second beast, coming up out of the earth. Now, the first one comes up out of the sea. It's the Mediterranean. It's the Roman Empire, which encompasses the Mediterranean. Right? But this one comes up out of the earth. And he had 2 horns like a lamb, and he spoke like a dragon. He exercises all the authority of the first beast in his presence. He makes the earth and those who dwell in it to worship the first beast, whose fatal wound was healed. He performs great signs, so that he even makes fire come down out of heaven to the earth in the presence of man. And he deceives those who dwell on the earth because of the signs which was given him to perform in the presence of the beast. Notice the second beast is doing a lot of the heavy lifting here. Okay? When it comes to miracles and all that. And it's also the one who imposes the mark of the beast. That's the religious leader. Okay? And he deceives those who dwell on the earth because of the signs which was given him to perform in the presence of the beast, telling those who dwell on the earth to make an image to the beast. This is the so-called abomination of desolation, who had the wound of the sword and had come to life. And it was given to him to give breath to the image of the beast, so that the image of the beast would even speak and cause as many as do not worship the image of the beast to be killed. And he causes all the great and the small, and the rich and the poor, and the free men and the slaves to be given a mark on their right hand and on their forehead. And he provides that no one will be able to buy or sell except the one who has the mark, either the name of the beast or the number of his name. Here is wisdom. Let him who has understanding calculate the number of the beast, for the number is that of a man, and his number is 666. Okay, you're familiar with those verses. Now let's dive into it. That's where we're going to try to put this together for you. The first beast is a political beast. The second beast is a religious beast. All right? We have to put this together with chapter 17, because the religious part of it comes out more in 17. But here we see it as well, because he's doing signs and wonders and miracles. Get that? And calling for worship of the Antichrist and the image of the beast. So those are all religious things. And he convinces the whole world to follow along. So the political beast is connected to Rome because it's the revived Roman Empire. Okay? It doesn't have its capital in Rome, but it is the revival of the Roman Empire. And we looked at that last time. Remember how it's trying to go encompass the nations of all around Africa and Israel. And that plan is still working. And how many of you know they engineered crises to get to their plan, right? To work. And the Arab Spring worked a little bit, but didn't work the way they planned. The Arab Spring was totally engineered by the West, by our government, I believe. Well, just look at the whole Benghazi affair. That points directly to us, right? But the Syria blew up on them. In Egypt, it did for a while. But Russia came in and messed with the plan, because Russia knew the plan. That's why they have decided to take down Russia, because Russia is interfering with the plan. You knew that, right? But that might be their Achilles heel here. So it's all very interesting, right? But they don't give up. They don't give up. If they don't get it one way, they'll get it another way. They'll find another crisis, another way. So it's a battle, right? But it's going to follow we can be absolutely certain it's going to follow what the Scriptures tell us. That's why it's so important to know what the Scriptures say. I don't care what some guy says on TV. It's what the Scriptures say. If he's saying what the Scriptures say and he's interpreting it in a sensible way, in a godly way, then we know it's good. It's right. It's going to happen. Now, there are a lot of Bible prophecy teachers who get aspects of it right, get some things really right, and you can glean from that. But I don't encourage it much, because I don't find a lot of people who can sift through it and actually pick out the good and leave the bad. It's hard to find people like that. You have to really grow in the Scriptures to be like that. So what people will do is they'll run and find, oh, he says it's, the head of the beast and all this, and they go off with these things, and then we lose them. The next thing you know, they're talking anti-Semitism or whatever, right? They're going on about QAnon or something else. And so this is the thing. You have to be careful about what you're watching and listening to and discerning. And that's why I come back to the Scriptures. If it's not in the Scriptures or is misinterpreting something, then it's wrong. Amen? And we don't know it all. We're learning. The one thing about eschatology, I can teach you Leviticus, and I can get most of it and put it in the book, right? And I'll learn things as I go along all the time. But when it comes to eschatology, I have to change stuff every time I teach it, because it's already happened and we're on to the next one. Right? And we can see, those of you who have been with us for years can see how we've had to change the charts, because it's old now, and that's already happened. All right. So, can anyone guess who the false prophet is? Now, it's the false prophet because it says it's a lamb. He looks like he's dressed like a lamb, and he talks like a dragon. Okay, thank you. I got lost there for a second. So he has horns like a lamb, but he speaks like a dragon. So he looks like a godly person. He looks like Jesus said, a wolf in sheep's clothing. He looks like a godly person, like a good religious leader, but when he opens his mouth, it's from the devil. Do we know anyone like that? Associated with the city of Rome? Okay, we do. Oh, some light bulbs went on. Okay. 2 horns like a lamb, but he speaks like a dragon. Now, the beast is a political system, but also a man. You see that? It's a king and a kingdom. Right? The religious system is headquartered in Rome. I'm going to prove that to you in chapter 17. Is also a man and a false prophet. Okay? Now, I'm not saying that Francis is the false prophet, although he's the best candidate ever. But he's too old, I think. He's not going to make it. But he has set the stage for the false prophet. His successor will absolutely be, unless he dies like within a week or something, he will be the false prophet. No doubt whatsoever. It's so clear in Scripture. Okay? Now, you can say that what we see clearly in Revelation 13 is that it's a religious leader, because the language used is of a religious leader. He looks like a lamb, but he's a lot, talks like a Satan, right? And isn't that what we see? This old man that looks so loving and so caring and so kind, but boy, you should hear him talk. It's not Christianity. He's talking about climate change, and he's promoting abortion and all the things that you never thought you would see them do. But this is nothing new. The office of the papacy has been prepared for the Antichrist for generations. Anybody shocked by that? Okay. If you're Catholic or ex-Catholic, you might be shocked by that, but I was an ex-Catholic, and took me a while to get my head around that. But I was a Catholic in the Catholic Church until I was 20 years old, and I saw all these things. I saw both sides of the fence. There's a lot of good Catholic people, so don't misunderstand me there, but the clergy is very corrupt. I mean, there's good ones and bad ones, right? But even so, the things that this man is teaching are, well, I'll show you. They're bad. They're bad. Okay, now, the Roman Empire is the beast, right? That's reborn, the revived Roman Empire. Now look at this stadium, the Colosseum, which I had the privilege of being there. And it's worth seeing. If you ever want to go to Rome, boy, go. If you ever get an opportunity, it's worth seeing. And that's the place where so many people were murdered and slaughtered, and so many Christians. And it was built with the money they got from burning the temple in Jerusalem. All the money they got out of the temple and out of Jerusalem. They used it to build this horrendous thing, which was all about blood and murder and slaughter. And then what we see over here is the Vatican. You all know that, with the obelisk in the middle, which is actually an Egyptian obelisk. You all know what an obelisk is, right? It's a phallic symbol, just in case you didn't know. It's all about fertility and the sun and the moon and all that. Baal Hadad, right? And of course we have all the saints up here dancing or whatever. I don't know what they're doing. I've seen them. But so it's a mixture, right? This is why, more when we get going, and I need to go further along here. All right, let's go to Revelation 17, if you would. And I'm going to read some passages. All right? We're going to go through 17 now. And we should be able to get it done. God helping us. All right? Then one of the 7 angels who had the 7 bowls spoke with me, saying, "Come here, and I will show you the judgment of the great prostitute," or harlot. Where did I get prostitute from? It's the same thing, but for some reason this is not. It's an updated NAS. Okay, I went back to the old one. I don't like when they do that to me. I hate that. Then one of the 7 angels who had the 7 bowls came and spoke with me, saying, "Come here, and I will show you the judgment of the great harlot." Okay, that's the word I'm used to using. It is the same thing, but don't change my words. "Who sits on many waters, with whom the kings of the earth committed acts of immorality, and those who dwell on the earth were made drunk with the wine of her immorality. And he carried me away in the spirit into a wilderness, and I saw a woman." Remember, it's a harlot. Harlot is a prostitute, like it says, but it's someone who, harlotry is a better word because it's the word used in the Bible over and over. The prophets spoke of harlotry. We looked at it tonight in Leviticus. When you worship idols, that God considered that harlotry against him. It's spiritual adultery. Okay? And this woman who sits on the, notice, she's sitting on the beast. Okay, the beast is the political system. The woman is the religious system. The woman was clothed in purple and scarlet. I think that's easy to get, right? Anybody you know clothed in purple and scarlet? Adorned with gold and precious stones and pearls, having in her hand a gold cup full of abominations and of the unclean things of her immorality. So this woman is called a harlot because she's not being true. You understand? It's prostitute kind of doesn't really get it across, because a prostitute can be a person who just has never been married. But the harlotry, the spiritual harlotry, is the point here. And that this is someone who should know better, but is committing harlotry from God. This is biblical language having to do with unfaithfulness. All right? And on her forehead, the gold cup is full of abominations and unclean things of her. Listen, if I were to tell you some of the things that are going on and some of the stuff that's come out and all of the pedophilia and all of the horrible sexual immorality, and then to share communion like that every day, what do you think that's about? That's not good, is it? Now, please understand, I'm not judging anybody here. All the churches have problems. Believe me, the mainline churches are pretty much not churches anymore. For the vast majority of them are not churches anymore. They're New Age centers or occult centers or LGBTQ whatever centers. Right? But unfaithfulness is the point here. She's not faithful to the Lord. She's committing adultery, spiritual adultery. And I saw the woman drunk with, it says that written on her was a mystery, Babylon the Great, the mother of harlots and of the abominations of the earth. Now, it's a mystery, but it's only a mystery if you don't know what it is. Right? John did not know. He was baffled. And of course, why would he be baffled? Because of the religious symbolism, because of the adultery part of it. He knows what the city is, but he doesn't get all that. Okay? The woman is riding the beast. Right? The beast he knows from Daniel. But who's the woman? Right? So, mother of harlots and abominations. Now, Babylon is the source of all spiritual harlotry. Okay? And that's why it says she's the mother of harlots. Now, well, you'll see in a minute. I'll let the video explain it to you if I can get to it. You'll see for yourself who's the mother and who all the harlots are. Okay? But it's spiritual adultery and spiritual wickedness and unfaithfulness to God. And occult, the occult. Babylon is the center of the occult. The Tower of Babel was the center of the beginning of all demonic occultism, right? And the worship of other gods. And that, of course, is what this woman represents. And I saw the woman drunk with the blood of the saints and with the blood of the witnesses of Jesus. And when I saw her, I wondered greatly. And the angel said to me, "Why do you wonder?" See, it's like, don't you know who this is? "I will tell you the mystery of the woman and of the beast that carries her, which has the 7 heads and the 10 horns." So the beast is the empire, the revived Roman Empire with 7 heads and 10 horns. Now, we haven't told you who the 7 heads are. We will. But you know what the 10 horns are, right? Okay, but I need to tell you that the blood of the saints, right? Let's go back to the pictures for a second. The blood of the saints. Look at these 2 places. How much blood do you think of the Jews and the Christians were shed in the city of Rome? A lot. She represented the last of the 4 empires, right? And this is something you may not know, but the Vatican is responsible for a lot of the blood of saints. Right. If you know anything about the Middle Ages, know anything about the Dark Ages, you know that many, many Christians were murdered by the Vatican, by the Pope and his whatever. Okay, right? So historically, this is true. This is true, and nobody can deny it. It's a fact of history. That doesn't mean that all the others are innocent. Please don't misunderstand. But there's a lot of blood between those 2 places. All right, let's go on now. Now let's go to verse 18 of chapter 17. Here it is right here on the screen, right? You see it? The woman whom you saw is very emphatic, is the great city which reigns over the kings of the earth. Okay? Now, what great city could that possibly be at the time of John that ruled over the kings of the earth? Only one. Only one. Rome. So Babylon is clearly Rome, and anyone who says Babylon is not Rome is wrong. Simply because it's so clear here. It's spelled out. There's nothing left for private interpretation. The great city that rules of the kingdom of the earth, when John was writing the book of Revelation, was Rome. No question. And Peter referred to Rome as Babylon. That was kind of a code that they used, right? And you know, we're kind of getting to that place ourselves where we might have to use code words because they're watching and listening to everything we say, right? So as persecution increases, we may end up doing that to just protect ourselves. We probably should be doing it already, but anyway, we're not afraid, are we? Are we afraid? Harlot? Cool. No, I don't think we'll use that one. All right, where did my mouse go here? Come back. Come back. Okay, it's John's fault. He's doing something over there. I had to jump out of it because I lost the mouse. All right. Now, it's on a scarlet beast, okay? And the colors are purple and scarlet. And I think if you've been a Catholic, you know what those colors are, okay? Those are the colors of the Catholic Church, no doubt. All right? All right, I'm going to go back to reading it from the scripture here. Sorry, I got a little lost. Now, the beast which you saw, verse 8, was and is not and is about to come up out of the abyss and go to destruction. And those who dwell on the earth, whose name has not been written in the book of life from the foundation of the world, will wonder when they see the beast that he was and is not and will come. Now, the beast is the empire plus it's also the leader. In this case, it's the leader that's being spoken of. He was before, he is not, but he will come again. Here is the mind which has wisdom. The 7 heads are 7 mountains on which the woman sits. Okay, so they have 2 meanings here. 7 mountains and 7 kings. And they are 7 kings. 5 have fallen, 1 is, and the other has not yet come. And when he comes, he must remain a little while. So I'm going to go through this in order for you. The city of Rome is built on 7 hills. Okay? So it's clearly the city of Rome built on the 7 hills. But the second meaning is that it's 7 kings or kingdoms. 5 which have fallen. 1 is at the time of the writing, and 1 has not come yet. Right? So let's look at that part. We'll go to back to the charts again. All right? Going to have to skip some things here. Okay, there's a chart here that'll help you to see it. All right, we understand these to be 7 empires that swallow up the land of Israel with the people in the land. Remember, I told you they have to be in the land, right? And there are 5, it says 5 have fallen. So the 5 kingdoms, the total number of kingdoms is 7, but 5 had fallen, and they were the ones who swallowed up Israel. And it starts with, number 1 is Egypt. Number 2, head number 2, Assyria. You see how it swallowed up Israel, and the people were in the land, right? In fact, it exiled them in the northern kingdom and attacked Judah, right? Sorry about that. Then the third one, Babylon, which took the whole region and took over Israel and exiled the people. Number 4, Media Persia, which also took over, but helped them rebuild the temple, but also took Israel. So this is the 4th head. These are the heads. These are kings which have fallen, kingdoms which existed. Remember I said kings or kingdoms. In this case, it's kingdoms, because if it were kings, it would be too many. It certainly wouldn't be 7, right? It's kingdoms, and these 5 have fallen. The 5th one is Greece. The one is, that's Rome at the time of the writing, right? And then it says there's another one that has not yet come, but when he comes, he must remain a little while. And it's emphasizing the little while because it's a very, very short term. It's only 3.5 years. All right? Now, the one that's coming is the one that began to emerge when Israel came back into the land. It's the EU, which is going to encompass the Mediterranean, and it's going to swallow up Israel in a treaty, and it will become the 7th head when it does that. Right? Okay. That's what we see developing. Right now, our country looks like zombie land. Okay? And that's on purpose. That's on purpose, you know. Who would do that? Who would do that? Who would humiliate the country? Like the man going out in the trees and saying he's complaining about freedom because it's on the White House grounds and he's walking around in the trees. That happened today or yesterday. I mean, who would do that to a country unless you wanted to make it look like complete fool and destroy it? Well, they're doing it. Somebody's doing it. Right? Yeah. So all of this tells you that Europe is rising up, and the strings are being pulled somewhere. And I would say that the strings that are being pulled here are going to end, and Europe is going to be pulling the strings. I'm not sure what we'll be pulling here, but it's going to be slugging something out for a while. But God will give us grace. Amen? Who knows? Maybe we'll get back in business again, but we'll never be the same. We'll never be the same. We'll never be able to recover. And in some ways that's good, because we've been meddling in places we shouldn't have been, and we've been meddling with God's work, which He won't let us do anymore. Amen? I mean, if you know God intervenes when you step over lines. God will watch over His purpose to perform it. He won't let anybody thwart His purposes. Aren't you glad of that? Because if they could do that, then they could do it for you and me. And they won't, because God won't let them. Amen? All right. But the main thing about these 5 kingdoms is they control Israel with the people in the land, as we said. Now, the 7th one is the EU. But then, let's go back to the text. It says, there's an 8th also, right? Okay. The 7 kings have not received, where was I? What verse? 6. No, 9. Sorry, 9. The 7 heads are 7 mountains on which a woman sits. There are 7 kings. 5 have fallen. One is, the other is not yet come. And when he comes, he must remain a little while. The beast, which was and is not, is himself also an 8th. But he's one of the 7. Now that sounds awfully complicated, doesn't it? But it really isn't. It really isn't. Let's look at it, the chart again. Okay. The 7th is the EU, which eventually swallows up Israel in a treaty and brokers the peace treaty, and that will be the 7th head. But it'll only last for 3.5 years, and then he breaks the covenant, Antichrist comes and is revealed, and he's the 8th, but he's one of the 7. Okay? Does that make sense? So the hint of that he was and is not and is to come keeps telling us that this Antichrist figure has existed before, which is a bit of a mystery, all right? So people have speculated about this for years, and we will get into that probably next time because we're running out of time now. So what I'd like to do is briefly take you on a little tour here. You see the woman on the beast, right? With the 7 heads and the 10 horns, right? Now, the heads are not all the same, but anyway, the drawing shows them all the same. You know the EU, we went through, these are some of the symbols of the EU. The woman is on the beast, right? The woman, Europa, happens to ride the bull, so the woman is on the beast. I mean, you can't make this stuff up. This is like unbelievable. And the Parliament building is shaped like the Tower of Babel. So they are telling you their roots are Babel. Right? It's Babylon. Now, there are people who teach, and there are good people who teach that America is Babylon. I think that's absolutely wrong. There's no way that America fits that pattern anywhere in the Bible. America is not even mentioned in the Bible. And when it is, it's the islands of the sea. It's distant from the action in the Middle East, and it's not mentioned in the Bible. It doesn't mean God doesn't love us or care about us. We're just not in the picture. Amen? China, Russia, all mentioned. We're not mentioned. Okay, now, Pope Francis calls for a new system of global government to tackle abortion? No. Oh, no, climate change. So I want you to see that he's really the false prophet for the, well, he's not the false prophet, but the papacy is the false prophetic office for the Antichrist. Okay, that's so clearly obvious. If you argue with that, then you don't get it. I mean, honestly, there's nobody that has the influence he has. Nobody. Do you know of anybody who has the influence he has? When he goes into a country, they get down on the ground. They kiss him. They kiss his ring. They kiss everything. Well, not everything, but you know what I mean. Sorry, I shouldn't have said that. Bleep. But they get on the ground. They prostrate themselves. These are people who don't know God or don't love God. They just love this guy. Right? I have to go because I'm out of time. Okay, did you know that the one world religion is well underway? Have you know that? Did you know that the Pope signed a document with the Imam in Abu Dhabi a few years ago, that they're actually building a church, a synagogue, and a mosque in this one place, and it's going to be the center for this new world religion. So the Chrislam thing is real, but it involves all the religions. And I want to show you a little brief video here if we can do it. Yeah, we have 5 minutes, so we can do it. I'm rushing to this week, but next time we won't rush. I'll give you the details, but now you're just getting the highlights.
We must create an environment where places of worship of different faiths can peacefully coexist. The UAE is constructing the Abrahamic Family House, which will consist of a mosque, church, synagogue, and educational facility. As we continue to launch initiatives to foster interfaith harmony, we affirm the need to mainstream regional and global efforts. The UNAOC and broader UN system can count on the UAE as a partner in promoting interfaith and interreligious dialogue to maintain international peace and security.
Laudetur Jesus Christus, praised be Jesus Christ. Welcome to this live-streamed broadcast of the closing ceremony of the 7th Congress of the Leaders of World and Traditional Religions in Nur-Sultan, Kazakhstan, this Thursday, September 15th. My name is Francesca Merlo, and I'll be providing the English commentary for this morning's event.
Abbiamo camminato insieme.
Dear brothers and sisters, we have traveled this road together, and I thank you for coming from so many different parts of the world and for bringing with you the richness of your beliefs and cultures. Thank you for having taken part so intensely in these days of work, commitment, and sharing in the service of dialogue. This is more valuable than ever in challenging times like our own, when the problems of the pandemic have been compounded by the utter folly of war. There are altogether too many cases of hatred and division, too little dialogue and effort to understand others. In our globalized world, this is all the more dangerous and scandalous. Our human family cannot advance if simultaneously united and divided, interconnected and torn apart by massive inequality. Thank you then for these efforts to build peace and unity. Our thanks go likewise to the local authorities who hosted us and organized this Congress with great care, and to the hospitable and courageous people of Kazakhstan, capable of embracing other cultures while at the same time preserving their own noble history and precious traditions. Kio Prakmet, Bolshoe Spasibo, thank you very much.